Hello, everyone from Aaron Smith and Nancy Bakeman with the Energy and Environmental Building Alliance. We're excited to have you with us here today. Uh, Standard rules apply. Put your Q&A in the Q&A section, and I will present questions throughout today's webinar podcast series. This will be recorded, and we will post it on the EBA.org website and at the Better Homes, Better Future podcast, which can be accessed on your favorite podcast system. I'm really excited. I don't know if a lot of you know, but we're going to be talking critically about water issues that face builders and developers, particularly across the western part of North America this year at our summit, October 10th through 12th in Salt Lake City. And one of the folks I've had the pleasure of getting a chance to meet is Melissa Lubitz with Hydraloop. If you haven't heard about Hydraloop, you need to. I'm particularly excited today. I've learned a little bit. I can't wait to learn more. So with that, Melissa, we'll turn it over to you. And we're so excited to have you with us here today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Aaron, and welcome everyone. Thank you so much for giving up a precious hour of your time in the afternoon. My name is Melissa Lubitz. I am with Hydraloop, proud to say it. I am based out of just outside of Toronto, and I take care of business development for North America for Hydraloop. Just a little background on myself. Water has been my life since I started my career, since I started my education. I've worked, did my degree in environmental biology and my diploma in environmental technology. And you could choose air, land, or water, and water was what I wanted to do. So I worked with a UV disinfection manufacturer for over 20 years. And from there, I decided to go into the market to pull together all aspects of water treatment. So nothing ever goes on its own. If a UV system's installed, you need a filter. If you have an ozone system, you're going to need some kind of filtration after. It's always a package. So I started working in the net zero aspect with rainwater harvesting, groundwater treatment, stormwater reuse. And from there, I learned of greywater recycling, and it just completed the puzzle for me. So I've been with Hydraloop now for, I would say 3 years, with the actual company itself, almost 2. And I worked with one of their partners based out in Fergus, Ontario, for a year working with the product. And I decided to jump ship and come right to the manufacturer themselves. So what I'm going to do today is talk about our technology and how we're getting into the market and what we can do to help save water. So I'll just jump in here. So with my first slide, what you see is what you get. Hydraloop is straightforward, to the point, simple. We're looking for something to be brought into the home, a decentralized system, and we don't want to complicate things. So as you can see on my first slide here, this is the Hydraloop device. It stands about the size of a refrigerator, and we wanted it to be as aesthetically pleasing as possible to look like an appliance within the home. So what am I going to touch on? Why greywater recycling? Why is this our target? And I will touch on this, but what I found is this is a predictable volume of water that we know it's there. Going into decentralized, it's within the home. We can then circulate that water within the home and use it for non-potable applications. So I'm going to talk about the treatment process of the Hydraloop. I can't tell you how many trade shows I've been at and someone's looked at the device and where do I put the filter? Where does the membrane go? I'm going to go through that with you and show the unique way that our CEO designed the device and how we're applying the principles of nature as far as treatment goes. Then I'm going to touch on how we implement the Hydraloop into the home. Now, our target is a new build focus. When you consider that we're trying to redirect all gray water within the home to a specific device, and then we want to redirect that reusable water to specific areas, whether it be toilet flushing, laundry, or irrigation, that plumbing configuration of the home is going to have to be different. Retrofit is definitely possible. It's more expensive, if you consider a home and you have to reconfigure your plumbing. So new build is a better way to go, but we do have a lot of consumers that say, hey, I want to make my home more sustainable, so this is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to show you how we guide our partners, how we guide our installers on how to get a home what we call recycle ready. Backup water. I have that on my list of things to talk about. Why is that so important? What I really want to get across is that the end user is never going to be without water. We always make sure that if that reusable water is used up, if we haven't been able to produce enough reusable water, clean water is always available. We bring that clean water in. But I really want to get across the point that there's never any chance of cross-contamination. I think there's a hesitation with greywater recycling within the home because people are concerned with that. We've made sure within our device that there's no chance of that actually happening. We're trying to push Hydraloop to be within the smart home. So we have something very unique that sets us apart from other manufacturers in the Hydraloop device manager. We are IoT connected. So Wi-Fi is necessary for the device. So I'll get into a little bit of details of what kind of data that we can pull out of the system and be able to look at, to study, and actually pass on to municipalities, especially as builders. This data is very important. And then from there, we'll talk about how we make our end user more water conscious, different certifications, product portfolio, talk about our specifications. How big is it? Where does it go? Is it going to fit? And then just how it actually looks in a home. So let's jump in right away here. I welcome any questions throughout the presentation. I find this starts the conversation, might even tweak something in my memory that I've missed. So please don't be afraid to ask any questions. Why greywater recycling? As I mentioned, I've been in all aspects of water treatment, whether it be rainwater harvesting, groundwater reuse, stormwater reuse. All of them are great, but they're not predictable. You can put in a $200,000 rainwater harvesting system, which I'm not saying they're not useful, but in a lot of applications, we don't know how much it's going to rain. We don't know how much we're going to be able to provide that building to flush their toilet. So what I found with rainwater recycling, especially decentralized, is we know what's there. If you know how big your home is, how many showers you have, how many people live in the home, we can predict how much greywater we're going to be able to produce, and therefore how much water we're going to be able to treat to be able to use for non-potable applications. So what is greywater? Within the home, there's three types of water. You're going to have obviously your clean water. So from a municipal supply, or perhaps from, they have a well, so their groundwater supply. Then we're going to have greywater, which is lightly contaminated water. Now there's a little bit of confusion here. Greywater is simply from your bath and shower, and washing machine, perhaps condensation from your air conditioner, dehumidifier. But when we talk about anything from the kitchen, say from the dishwasher or say from the kitchen sink, that's considered black water. Because of the different organics and microorganisms that will be present, that source of water can grow and feed and become something different. The same as water from your toilets. Obviously, that is your black water. So what we're talking about here is greywater. So we're talking about water from your shower, your bath, your washing machine, and any other condensation from whether it be from your dehumidifier or your air conditioner. We can bring all those into our greywater recycling device. So the easiest way to recycle greywater is right where you use it, decentralized, in the home. So that's what this device is used for. It's to be brought in the home and keep it within the home. So always consider what water that doesn't have to come in doesn't have to go out. So not only are we saving on potable water, which is our mission to save potable water, but also we're saving water going out to the wastewater treatment plant. So not only are we taking energy off of the water and wastewater treatment plant, we're saving on our infrastructure as well. I read once, and our co-founder Sabine said to me that she found this piece of information that I found quite vital, is that over 3% of the world's energy is used to pump water all over the world. So that's something that I always hold in my mind and say, let's take away some of that. We don't need to be using that energy to do that. And by recycling your water in the home, we can save that. So what do we offer? We offer a turnkey product made to measure solutions for residential and commercial real estate applications. So we can offer this for residential, for in the home, light commercial, as well as multi-residential. So whether it be one system or if we have a larger volume, we can bank up these devices to cascade so we can treat a larger volume of water. The water savings, people come to me all the time and say, what kind of water savings can I get with this? Give me a number. It's almost impossible to say. We have to decide or find out how many people live in a home. How many showers are they taking? What kind of shower head do they have? What kind of flow of water? Do we have, what kind of washing machine do you have? How many children do you have? All these things come into consideration, but then we have to work with the end user to be cognizant of their water use. Have your showers in the morning so the device can treat, and then we'll have water available for the washing machine in the evening. So the percentage is between 25 and 45% of water savings, but it's really going to depend on the end user and the application itself. Treatment process. Now, this is a patented process to Hydraloop, and Arthur Valkieser, who is our CEO and designer of the device, what he wanted to do is to create something very simple and to bring the concepts of nature into all the treatment. I've worked in the residential industry for many, many years, so I know how important it is when you put something into an end user's home. You need it simple. You need something that they don't have to touch and mess with. And what we wanted to do is make sure that there wasn't a lot of consumables that they had to replace, put in chemicals. We wanted it as simple as possible. So if you look at the device here, there's 6 steps of treatment. And I'm just going to go through these as they come into the device itself. So that very first picture I showed you on the first slide, where we had that beautiful Hydraloop piece on the front, what that is just a faceplate, so it can simply be removed. And now you see the magic behind the curtain. So what you can see here is the arrow at the top. So your your gray water is going to come into the top of the device. So once the water enters the device, you can see down the center of the device is our first tank, that thin tank down the middle. We call that T1. So what happens is all your gray water is coming in the top. As it enters that T1, it's very turbulent. So it's flowing in, it's bubbling, we have soap in that water. So what's going to happen is any hair, if men shave in the shower, all that is going to get caught up in that foam, in that soap, which rises to the top as the water's filling. And inside that T1 is a skimmer. So what happens is that foam is just going to go over the top, and you can see that there's a pipe that runs along the side of that tank, and it goes down, and that is actually going down into the sewer. So it has a connection straight to the sewer. So then what happens is once that tank is filled, the valve closes and the treatment is going to start. So the water is going to sit for a period of time. So what we want with that is we want gravity to take hold. We want anything large, any sediment, any dirt is all going to fall out of solution to the bottom of T1. And you can see at the bottom it's kind of like a cone shaped. And that will actually drain out once per week. Not a lot of collection there, and it's a little bit of a heavier sedimentation, or excuse me, it's not actually a fluid, but it's a little bit of a heavier slurry that's collected there. So the next step, there's still going to be organics in this water. This is shower water. Somebody that's had lotion on their body or used shampoo. Organics are very difficult to remove from water. If you've heard of any type of water treatment, usually it's some type of anion exchange that you have to do in order to remove it. So what we're doing, if you can see that blue circle that's on T1, is we are injecting millions of bubbles into this column of water. Why are we doing this? The skin of the bubble has an electrical charge, which attracts any organics. So all those organics are going to attach themselves to those bubbles, and they're going to rise to the top. And what we have is foam fractionation. So again, that foam is going to go over the skimmer, and it's going to go to drain. Now, our second tank, which is the one that's surrounding T1, we call that T2, obviously. Within that tank, it's very unique is that we've created a bioreactor. So within that tank, we have, and what we call them is bio balls. So I've actually built one of these myself. So we actually pour the balls in the top of the tank. And this is, I'm not sure if everyone can see this here. It's not actually a ball. It's more of a circular piece of plastic. But as you can see, it has lots of surface area. And what we want is we want to bring in the bacteria. So what happens is when you install the device, for the first 3 weeks, you're not collecting any of that water. You're not collecting any reusable water. All we're doing is running gray water to run through the system. Why we're doing that is we want bacteria to start collecting on these bioballs. After 3 weeks, all these bioballs are primed, and we now have this beautiful microbiological environment in T2. Why do we want that? What do bacteria love to do? They love to eat anything organic. So what we do is when the water is ready out of T1, when we've done their sedimentation, our foam fractionation, we transfer that water to T2. have lots of distribution with those bioballs, and all those microorganisms will break down the organics. So if you have water going in that has a milky look to it, by the time it comes out of T2, it's going to be clear and we've removed the organics. So the next step and the final step is, and you can see at the bottom of the device, there's a tiny white, it looks like an upside down teacup. What that is a UV disinfection device, an LED device. So the water is actually going through a disinfection system, and any bacteria that might have been in the gray water, as well as any bacteria that's come out of your bioreactor, is going to be inactivated by that UV disinfection system. And the final tank, which is this bottom white tank, is the storage tank. So that is going to be what we call reusable water. Once the gray water has been treated, that's what we term it as, reusable water. Once every 3 to 4 hours, that water is going to circulate back through the UV disinfection system. We just want to make sure that the quality of that water is maintained and it doesn't change in any way. So this is the very simple steps of treatment. The only thing that needs to be removed or changed, switched out on the device, is the UV disinfection itself. Because it's an LED, it has a 2-year life. So once every 2 years, the installer is going to have to go in and change out that device in order for it to maintain its disinfection ability. The water smart home. So this is what we're looking to achieve. We want to be able to take all of our gray water, air conditioning condensation, heat pump condensation, washing machine water, all of that we want to bring into the Hydraloop device, treat it to the point that it can be used for non-potable applications. So back into your washing machine, for your toilet flushing, and then out for irrigation. Now, when I say irrigation, this is a non-pressurized line to go outdoor to irrigation. So you can fill a rain barrel. Or we have customers in the Middle East. The main thing that they're focused on is to bring that water to go through their pool treatment system to top up their pools. So there's many different ways that we can use this water. So recycle ready. This is what we offer to our installers and our partners that we deal with, the guidance that we offer them, saying, okay, this is how the home needs to be set up in order to get ready for the Hydraloop device. What we'd like to see is, with Greywater recycling, it is something new. We would like to see that all designs of buildings be recycle ready. So they're ready when the end user is ready to put a device in to recycle their gray water. So what this would mean is, if you look at this diagram here, we have your shower on the top floor. Ideally, it would be great if we could have the Hydraloop installed in the basement, have all the water run by gravity into the top of the device. But it's not always going to work that way. So you can see in this drawing here, where I've kind of included everything, where let's say, for example, we have a shower on the ground floor. Well, we're going to have to lift that water. This is a lift pump here, number 5. We're going to have to lift that water up to the Hydraloop device. We're also, if the washing machine, let's say, for example, is on the same level as the Hydraloop, we're going to have to put that up into the device as well. And then we're going to have our connections to if the customer wants to go back into the washing machine, or we can also distribute it to toilets or outdoor irrigation. So what we do is we have a document that we always make sure that our installers have to get their home recycle ready. And then once the device has been installed, they're ready for startup and commissioning, we have a checklist so we can go through, do you have your backup water installed? Is everything set up properly? Is Wi-Fi available at the location? All of these things we want to double check before we go in and start to do our setup for commissioning. And these are just different things that we can implement into the device. As I mentioned, the different types of gray water that we can bring in. As I mentioned before, Wi-Fi is key for our system, because probably not only are we saving water, but we are able to look at the data of what are the devices doing. We're able to see different patterns. Oh, this one home, and I can show you some curves shortly, they're saving much more water in the summer months. Well, they have 2 kids home from college. They're showering more. There's more water available to be recycled by the Hydraloop device. It just gives a lot of data, and I'm finding that municipalities are very excited about this data because this is such a new thing. What Hydraloop has been trying to do is get to the regulators, get to the municipalities. We want to be able to have incentives and rebates available for builders that do incorporate these devices into their designs. So then this is something that becomes the norm. So having this data being collected by our Hydraloop device manager is key to everything functioning. So it talks about backup water and an air gap. So when we looked at the device, as you saw, the brains of the whole system are mostly in the bottom of the device. So if we do a enlarged picture of it here, and we kind of pull that module out, you'll see that there is a small little tank in there, much smaller than, say, T1, T2, or T3. We call this obviously T4. T4 is for our clean water, or what we call our backup water. So what is this? Well, we want to make sure that when someone goes to flush their toilet, and that's great if there's reusable water available to flush the toilet, but let's say there's not. So the valve to the Hydraloop is going to close, and immediately the valve to your clean water is going to open, and then the toilet can be flushed, or the washing machine can be used. There's always going to be water available. Of course, the first thing that people think is there going to be cross-contamination? This is a concern. So why I always bring this up is I want to explain that what went into the design to ensure that this doesn't occur. So if you look at this blown up picture of the T4, the clean water goes in the top of the tank here. And then the water that feeds to, whether it be toilets or wherever the water is going to go, comes out of the bottom. And there is an air gap of almost 41 millimeters in that device, as well as an opening in the tank. So basically the water's coming in as it's needed and it's being pulled out. If for some catastrophic reason, reusable water were to back up into this T4, we do have a backflow preventer at the inlet of the T4. So no contaminated water is ever going to be able to go back into the lines. So each device is equipped with this flow regulator on the inlet. So the water flow will never exceed 3.17 US GPMs, allowing for this 40.1 millimeter air gap to always be maintained within T4. It's very crucial to understand that. I do know that there is, some people do have this discomfort on having, treated water within the home. So we want to make sure that this is maintained, that there is no concern. The Hydraloop device manager. People have often said, your equipment is more like a piece of tech rather than water treatment. And when you see what the device manager can do, it's actually quite unique compared to other manufacturers of these types of equipment out there. So what we wanted to do is, because this is something in the home, and as we all know, the home is going by the way of the smart home, whether it be Nest or Google Home or different things incorporated in, we wanted Hydraloop to be able to do the same thing. We wanted our installers, if they can, to be able to troubleshoot it without going into the home. So let's say, for example, Hydraloop works on the basis of partners, and we have partners all over the world. And these partners we assist to go out and sell the Hydraloop devices. So let's say, for example, if you look at this map on the right-hand side, we have an installer, and one little cluster is all of those green dots are all of the installations they've done. So they will have, those will be their own systems. They can't see any other ones, just their own that they've installed, that they've set up with the device manager. They can click on any one of those dots and the serial number will come up, the customer name will come up, the contact information will come up, where it's located. They can click on it, and if you look to the graph, and it looks very complicated, I won't get into the full details of this, but this is just showing how the system is operating. It shows you the line, okay, the device is filling up. Okay, now the device is treating. Okay, now we have, it's doing a transfer from one tank to the other. And at the end of the day, what I find, especially when people are looking for case studies and they're looking for data, is this chart that we're able to create, is that at the end of 1 year, at the end of 1 week, we're able to chart day by day, week by week, month by month, how much water that device is actually being able to create reusable water to be treated with, to be used within the home. So you can see here, different months on this bar graph, they were able to create large volumes of reusable water, whereas other months, not as much. Perhaps, as I mentioned before, the children are home from college. The kids, it's at the end of the year, they're back home from college and there's a lot more showering going on. Different things can come into play, but it can just show you the pattern. But most of all, it can show you at the end of one year how much water that home is able to save in potable water usage. I do have builders that I've spoken to before, and they say, you know what? The end user, people can just turn on their faucet and they know there's water there. They're not concerned about running out of water. Well, right now, if we consider Arizona, certain areas of Arizona, their permits are not being given for development because in certain areas, their groundwater has been depleted. So what do they do now? Now they have to be able to come up with a 100-year water plan for their developments in order to show that they are looking to the future to be able to save water. Well, let's consider the home where the homeowner is not concerned. Let's say we install a Hydraloop. They don't care. They just know there's one in the house. It's not a big deal. They don't need to do anything to it. That Hydraloop is going to catch water, regardless of whether they care or not. Let's say, for example, the Hydraloop only catches 2 showers every day, 2 showers every single day, 365 days a year. That'll be 30 gallons of reusable water that they can produce in a day. That's 10,000 gallons a year of potable water that they didn't have to bring into their home. That's 10,000 gallons of wastewater they didn't have to put out of their home. If you multiply that times 100 homes, that's a savings of 10 million gallons of potable water. That's astronomical. It's so exciting to me to think that we have that possibility, that this could be the future. So by having the Hydraloop device manager, you're able to see that in real time. You're able to piece this together to show different individuals, okay, this is what these homes are saving. And I think this is probably one of the most important, other than the device manager aspects of the Hydraloop, it's the actual app. So when you have the installer, he's in the home, he's online with one of our sales engineers, and they're setting up the Hydraloop, they're running water in, they're checking everything's running, it's started up, it's online, everything's functioning. Before the installer leaves the home, they're going to have a discussion with the homeowner, and they're going to say, okay, we're going to set up the Hydraloop app on your phone. What this app is going to do is every day it's going to give the homeowner a notification. Hey, congratulations. Yesterday, you saved 30 gallons of potable water for flushing your toilets with reusable water. Tell you what, tomorrow, why don't you try to do your laundry in the evening, have your showers in the morning, so that way we know that we're going to have enough water that's being treated to be able to run through your washing machine. And every day, they're going to learn the patterns of that homeowner. They're going to learn when they're having their shower, when they do their washing, and they're going to be able to offer tips and encouragement and tell them, you know what, hey, I've got a full tank of reusable water. Why don't you, on your app, put that water out to your rain barrel, or why don't you run a load of laundry? It's really encouraging them and showing them what they can do with their potable water. So it's not going to be a device that's just sitting in the basement that they're not doing anything with. We're really encouraging people to get involved, to get excited. And at the end of the day, I have a 12-year-old, to get children excited about this, for this to become the norm, that we can recycle water within our home and save water. That's the mission, to save water. So what's really interesting, and I should talk a little bit more about the company itself. Hydraloop is based out of the Netherlands. They are a European country. And coming from the UV disinfection industry, I know that a lot of the different parts and technologies that are incorporated into water treatment, if it comes from Europe, there was always this excitement, because I found that Europe was leaps and bounds ahead technology-wise. So when Hydraloop started and Arthur, our CEO, was designing the device, right off the bat, he was designing it to North American standards. He was running tests on the device and sending it to the lab and making sure that it met what North American standards was offering. So NSF 350, NSF is a well-recognized third-party certification coming from, filtration and UV disinfection. I know that NSF is a well-recognized third-party validator. So we have got all of the products, Hydraloop devices, certified under the NSF 350 certification, which is a water reuse certification. So what does that even mean? What they've done is taken an actual device of ours, put it on test like it would be in a home, and they've actually created Greywater. There's actually a recipe of laundry detergent, Colgate, toothpaste, different soaps, all within that Greywater. And then they do get a supply from wastewater plants. So we do have E. coli in that water. There is bacteria in there and specific levels of BOD and COD and turbidity. And what they're doing is taking that influent water, running it through the Hydraloop, collecting the effluent and measuring what's in there. And then as you can see, this chart of parameters, this is what we have to meet in order to be certified under NSF. So they're looking for specifics like BOD, biological oxygen demand. Well, if there's a high BOD in the water, that means that we've got bacteria in there. So we want to make sure that that level is very low. Bacteria, obviously, they want to make sure that we've inactivated all, especially E. coli in the water, turbidity and TSS. These are the things that they're concerned about in order to deem that water safe to be used for non-potable applications. Also, to be sold into the North American market, we wanted to make sure that we had our electrical certification. So we do have UL-979 certification as well as UL-C for Canadian markets. And then, as I said, we are a global company. We sell all over the world. So we do have certifications for many different countries in order for us to sell into and it be accepted by different global entities. Our product portfolio. So I'll talk a little bit about the devices we offer. At this point in time, we have two models. One for a 4 to 5 person home, which we call the H300, and one for larger homes, 6 people and up, or it can go into, say, multi-residential applications. Now, I mentioned Colgate, so toothpaste is in the water, and you'll probably notice that I did not mention bathroom sinks to be able to be pulled into the Hydraloop device. The water is safe, can be put into the Hydraloop device. Why we don't offer it or we don't recommend it for, say, an H300, which is the 2 devices that are on the left. So, for example, let's say, for example, you wash your hands. Compare washing your hands, the volume of water that you use, compared to that of having a shower. So I go in and I wash my hands, create a volume of water that's going to directly go to the Hydraloop. Let's say if we connected up sinks. The Hydraloop is going to sense that water. It's going to sit for a period of time. It's going to say, well, there's no more water coming in. I'm going to close off the valve and I'm going to start treating. Now, the treatment process takes 4 hours from beginning to end. By the time we fill up that tank, it's a 4-hour time period. So what happens is somebody goes in after about an hour and they have a shower. Well, because the device is closed off and now cleaning, that water is just going to go, there's an overflow. It's just going to go right to drain. So what's happened now is we've lost the larger volume of water for treatment. So we want to make sure that the device is operating as efficiently as possible. When you get into larger homes, 4 teenagers, 4 bathrooms, they're using a larger volume of water, we'll recommend the H600. How the H600 obviously is different from the 300, is bigger. But if you look at the red device on the right-hand side, it's you can see the side of it there. You can see that there's 2 tanks at the top. What makes this device unique is that if you fill up one tank, so let's say I wash my hands, I create a volume of water, that water goes into the first tank, closes off, starts treating. We have another tank available. So if somebody goes in and has a shower, we have a whole other line of treatment that's ready to accept that water and treat it, and then everything will accumulate in this bottom tank, which will capture, it's about a 60-gallon capacity of that bottom tank. So, and these are the devices that we use for larger applications to cascade them up, and I'll show a picture of that as well, but just to show you the difference between the 2 devices. Now, because the H600, we have treatment on the front and the back of the device. When it's installed, it must be on its side, on the wall, to be able to get access to the 2 ends, and that's why we have this device on wheels. Hydraloop was at the CES show, 2023 in January, and we launched a new product that we have coming out in the next year and a half, called the Concealed. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning of my presentation, we are gearing our systems towards new builds. Well, I can't tell you how many times I was just at a water workshop that Berkeley put on in Zurich, and everyone's like, but all these other homes out there, we need all the homes globally to be able to recycle their water. Well, what Arthur's done, our designer, is come up with the concealed. And what the concealed is if someone wants to bring in Greywater recycling, all they would need to do is renovate their bathroom. So as you can see, and there's different ways to look at this, but basically, if you look at the bottom right picture, it's kind of looking down on the bathroom. What we're doing is we're building it right into the wall. So there's actually a lift pump there. So when the shower water goes into the drain, the lift pump's going to pull it up, put it in the top of the device. We have a hanging toilet bowl on the other side of the wall with a unique flushing device. And as that water is treated and the reusable water is collected, when that flushing device is hit, that's what's immediately going to go in the toilet. And then we do have a connection that can go to another half bath within the home. So it's actually quite unique because it's behind the wall, and we have, different face plates that can, be put in the bathroom here, and all the lighting on the Hydraloop will indicate, if the water is being treated, if there's water ready, if there's no water in there. But there's different unique ways to set it up in the bathroom. So this is actually going through its certification. So as I mentioned, it's going to be late 2024, early 2025 when we have this available. So this is going to be very exciting for us. And this is basically an H150. So it's about half the capacity of, say, an H300. And as I mentioned, you can cascade the systems up together in larger applications. So these would be in hotels, office buildings, shopping centers, sports clubs. We do have a lot of commercial applications throughout Europe, whether it be a student residence, hotels, sports centers. We have a soccer center in the Netherlands where I believe, I can't remember how many are there, but it is a cascade setup, for all the showers in that sports arena that they're using. So that is a possibility. The specifications of the product, as I mentioned, it stands about the size of a refrigerator. So that's about 74 inches in height. So, I always get the question, what's the distance, or what is the height that, it's going to take up in total? Obviously, we have an inlet on the top. It's about 2.2 meters from the floor to the top of the connection. And it stands a width of about 14 inches. And the length that comes out from the wall, the width is 32 inches, and then what comes out from the wall is about 14 inches of the H300, and then the 600 is just going to be double as much because we have the two tanks. Very low power consumption. It does have a distribution pump within there. So once the water is treated, we have a distribution pump that'll move the water to toilets or the washing machine. Very quiet pump. It's like that of a dishwasher. And if you consider how much power that a refrigerator uses, about 150 watts per day. Hydraloop device uses about an estimated 40 watts per day. Different home installations that I've included. The Hydraloop can be installed. It's not an outdoor appliance. This is something that needs to be protected from the elements. We install devices all over the world. We have a team in the Middle East, obviously a very large team within the Netherlands that services all European countries. We have devices all over Australia, have a very unique relationship with Sydney Water, New Zealand, all the way to South Africa, Vietnam, all the different environments we've been exposed to. So, in South Africa, we do have, there is a resort where each of these little condos has its own Hydraloop device to, recycle the water that's coming from the showers. They use that to flush the toilets. And because they're way out in the desert, they have solar panels on the roof of these little condos, and they use that water to rinse off their solar panels. And the exciting thing about that is, think of the extreme weather that they're in South Africa. So we've seen the very extreme to, we have devices installed in Quebec. they cannot freeze. You don't want it to be in, like, I live just outside of Toronto. I would never install this in my garage because it gets very cold here. So we want to make sure that the temperature is kept above 5 degrees Celsius. But I mean, this can be put in a laundry room. This can be put in a mechanical room, in the basement, in a garage, depending on the environment. There's all different applications. And what we usually do is when we're working with a builder, we'll sit down with them with the design of a home and recommend where the best place is it's going to be in order to, eliminate the possibility of possibly having a lift pump or more piping. So this is always something that we sit down with installers and assist in how the devices should be installed. Our technical resources, because we're a global company in all the areas I mentioned, we have someone that's awake at all points in time, which is amazing because not only do we have the Hydraloop device manager that the installer, if anything goes wrong with the device, the installer is going to get a notification. And the installer can troubleshoot. Probably about 85% of anything that goes wrong with the device can be troubleshooted, not even going into the home. All can be done online. But not only that, if it is in the middle of the night, say there's an issue with the UV system, one of our staff, our sales engineers, is going to be awake. Someone in the Netherlands, Carl, our global sales engineer, who's all over the world from South Africa. Someone is going to see that. It goes through our Fresh Desk operating system. Someone's going to see that and be able to start to troubleshoot it on their own. So there's always going to be someone available to assist our partner or assist the end user to work with their device if something does go wrong. Hydraloop in motion. I'm not even going to play all these. There's so many different YouTube videos, and Arthur and Sabine, who are the co-founders, husband and wife team that are all over the world, talking about our mission of saving water. We've been featured in Brave Blue World, which is a Netflix documentary that came out approximately a year and a half ago. Countless interviews. Australia has done a huge report on us because our unique relationship with Sydney Water, just all spread throughout the world. Hydraloop is trying to get the message out. And at this point in time, if anyone comes to me and says, what can we do as far as marketing? I'm finding education right now is the big thing, getting the word out, teaching people that this is a possibility, whether it be myself or any manufacturers out there. I want to talk about the mission, a mission of saving water. All homes all over the world should have these installed due to the amount of water that we can save. And there's a lot of areas all over the world right now where they're having major issues. In the south of France, where Sabine and Arthur have a home right now, no one's building pools. They can't build pools because it's actually illegal to fill your pool with potable water. So what do people do? We want to make sure that by getting these into the homes, we can start this mission of saving water, so we don't run into issues, more serious issues in the future. Many awards that Hydraloop has won. Hydraloop first went to the CES show in 2020, and they won Best of the Best, Best Sustainable Product, Best Startup. And this just basically put us on the map. And, from there, it's only gone up. It's just last summer that we actually won the World International Intellectual Property Award for 2022. They were one of the 5 winners. So there's many other ones I could put up here, but we're not a new company. We're not a startup company. We're slowly getting into the North American market. There is things that we need to consider as far as, barriers and regulations. And that's what we're doing. We're getting out and we're educating. We're letting people know what our device can do, what it's capable of. We have many different installations that are starting up. Our first sustainable development is going to be in Atlanta, Georgia, of almost 150 homes. That should be end of this year, beginning of next year. So this is something that is starting to come about. So I didn't want to take up too much of everyone's time. That's all I wanted to cover, but my main message is to use water twice. And I thank you everybody for your time.
Great, thanks, Melissa. And the Q&A is still open, so please enter any questions that you have, and I'll present those to Melissa. Melissa, is the product installed by Hydraloop, or can our plumber be certified to install the product?
Yeah, great question. No, Hydraloop doesn't actually do the installation themselves. So we don't actually have sales individuals. We work with partners. Partners are the most important thing to us because there are people that are going out there doing the installations and doing the startups. So we don't have to actually certify them. We would like if a plumber is actually doing the installation, and it's similar to that of, say, a washing machine. So an hour and a half to 2 hour installation, connecting the device up. And then what happens is when they actually go to start it up and connect it to Wi-Fi, then we bring in one of our sales engineers to assist. And then what our hopes are is the partner is eventually that's going to be able to do that on their own. We do have one in Quebec right now. They've done enough installations that they're basically doing their installations on their own.
Great. And I love that you showed purple pipe in the house. So I think one of the differences for most builders out there is that you're going to do kind of a structured plumbing design with purple pipe in the system that designates that that is gray water reuse. Does your global technical team or your North American technical team, can they assist with kind of that structured plumbing
Yeah.
layout on the front side?
Absolutely, yeah, and that's what we do. We're trying to put as much online as we can, but I find too just to have a meeting with the builder that we're working with, and they'll throw up their design and obviously NDAs back and forth to make sure. But yeah, we will look at how it's configured, and we will help them on how they should set up their plumbing in the home. Every home's different; they're going to be unique. So yeah, we will definitely take that time to assist.
That's fantastic. And as you look across North America, is there any place where code does not allow the device to be used currently, or is it wide open?
Really good question. And when I first started, we would, if you look in the regulations, and a lot of them were written the 80s, or do you know what I mean? So
You mean
I'm
the 18? You mean the 18
yeah.
years, right?
I was trying to be nice, but we are having, there's going to be, there's states like California, Colorado, Florida, Texas. They're coming to us and, asking, we want to get this rolling. But then there's other areas like Nevada where, they're like, no, it's okay. We make our gray water and then they sell it back. But we are getting a lot of inquiries from builders there that want to do that, want to bring it into their development. So I wouldn't even say that there's any place that just says, no, there's no way you can do this. Because what we're doing, we have a third-party certified system. We know what it actually can do. It's perfectly safe. We have all the certification. So at this point in time, some states might be slower than others, but no, not at this point in time. I wouldn't be able to say one state.
And is there a geographic focus that you have as a company where you are saying, yeah, we want to target Arizona and California, and
Yeah.
we all see it on the news, these areas of North America where we're having dire water issues. Is that kind of where your focus has been?
Yes, absolutely. But then I'm seeing areas like Texas, and
Yeah.
spoke to a gentleman yesterday in Central Oregon where they're having water scarcity issues. Right now, British Columbia, a lot of the areas in British Columbia are a tier 4 water scarcity. So it's really starting to it's just rising. I mean, California, yes, absolutely, they're always having water scarcity issues, but I'm finding more and more it's going outside of the Western states and Western Canada.
Yeah. And is there a way to, I know you said that the water use can be 25 to 45%, but if we have a builder developer in EBA that is having to prove their water source for 100 years to be enabled to build in that area, is there enough data that we can share that with the code officials of the municipality on some of the water savings that we're going to anticipate?
Yeah, we do have, we've developed some case studies. It's more global than North America at this point in time, but we're building that up. We do have that we've created, whether it be commercial, residential applications, but yeah, we do have that data built up, and we do have probably 10 different applications where they're in the midst or now installing 10 to 15 systems to start their pilot to get that data and be able to. Our biggest thing is to be able to go to municipalities and talk about rebates. Let's get this in the bylaw that can be offered.
Fantastic. Question that we just had come in. and thank you for that, is great comment. This is an amazing product. That's absolutely my sentiment when I first got a chance to meet your team. How many Hydraloops are in operation presently in the world?
Yep. We're around the 500 to 600 number. We do have some devices that are sold, but they're not installed, or either installed and they're not started up yet. So we're in around the 600 range.
That's fantastic. And what is there a rough order of magnitude of costing? And let's stick with US dollars because we can
Yeah.
all.
Yeah, we only work in US dollars or euros. So
Okay,
yeah,
yeah.
no. To the end user for an H300 system, the cost to an end user is in and around the range of 5,500 US.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
fantastic.
when we get into the concealed, I mean, that's going to be a little less expensive, around 3,500 US.
Yeah, I think I signed up for the concealed
Yeah, it's really,
mailing
that's
list
really exciting. Really
on
exciting.
on your site because I think that really opens it up to any bathroom remodel if you're
Yeah,
cognizant of water use. And it's such a beautiful looking product in the bathroom environment. And I do know, I think the US had always been hesitant to use wall mounted uh, water
cool. Yeah,
closets.
yeah, yeah.
But now wall mounted is available from Kohler, from Duravit, from American Standard. So that's a
Exactly.
great
Yeah,
option.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, One question that just came in, and how are you able to use Greywater to fill a pool? Are there any special customized processes?
What- that's a really good question. That's going to depend on where they're doing it, because there's different laws everywhere.
Right.
I know in certain areas of the United States it's not allowed. I know when I was speaking in Arizona, probably about 3 or 4 months ago, to a couple high-end builders, that's all they wanted it for, was to top up
Yes.
the pool. So it's not a hose thrown in the pool and we're just going to top it up. That water is to go through their treatment system, so to be fed into their treatment system and chlorinator or whatever they have for their pool system before it actually goes into the pool. But we've
That's
done that on many, many different applications.
Yeah, I would think that just the evaporation of the pool and the ability to top that off with the gray water would be a huge benefit.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And Melissa, we could also use that. I mean, if you had a sprinkle irrigation system, you
Yeah.
could have a cistern outside that the irrigation system would tap into first.
The only issue, not issue, I find with regulations,
Yeah.
they don't want that in any type of, if it was drip irrigation, absolutely. And from my
Okay.
experience with rainwater harvesting, there was always the question of, if you're going to put in irrigation, is it drip or spray? Because if it's spray, we need to have the right amount of disinfection, because if it's
Mhm.
exposed to the public. So it depends on where you are. And I mean, if they do put more treatment afterwards, definitely that's something that they could do.
Okay, sounds great. Another great question. For the stored treated water, is it recycled through the UV, or is there a time period for allowance of storing the treated water if it cannot be used right away? And I
Yeah.
think the question, if I simplify it for myself, is, at a certain point, are we dumping that water if it's not used?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, if it was just in a home and it was the water, we had reusable water in the tank, and the family goes away on holidays, and there is a vacation setting they can do, but not everyone's going to remember. Yes, it will. After a certain amount of time, that reusable water will simply dump. But we do also have other applications that, whether it's some commercial, and they're doing it in California, where they are taking that reusable water and they're collecting it as it's produced in a separate tank, where they have injection of chlorine, or they'll have a larger UV disinfection on the outlet before it's actually pulled up, to be able to keep that water and have a larger volume of water. We don't encourage storing the raw gray water, but storing the reusable water, as long as we have some type of disinfection. We just want to make sure that the quality is maintained.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I have a personal question. I know we've got somebody else typing right now, but have you thought about harvesting the BTU energy out of that water as part
I
of the
get a
system?
question all the time, all the
Okay,
time.
it's not just me.
I'm like, Arthur, you're killing me. What's going on? Arthur is always coming up with something new, and absolutely that's something he's working on for sure. Because, if you think about that energy, it's just there. We need to capture it and be able to use it in the home. So most definitely that's something that's being worked on.
I mean, it's already incredible, but I think if we get to being able to utilize the therms that we dump down the drain,
Absolutely.
it,
Yeah. Yeah, at this point in time too, I mean, if you think about it, especially in Canada, I mean, the water that comes into your home can be 3 degrees Celsius. We bring in that water into the toilet by bringing in the Hydraloop water, which is room temperature. I mean, the house does not have to accommodate to bring that water up to temperature. So, the carbon footprint is something to a discussion to have.
yeah, and I think that people don't understand, I don't think, that the operational and embodied footprint of pumping water all over the world,
Yeah.
you know, is just an incredible amount of emissions. Another new question that just came in: does Hydraloop use worldwide information on countries' water resources and recommend the use of the system? We know that there are countries with a water deficit and are on the verge of, it says property, but I think it meant to be a different word there. But so are you looking at I think the water resources and places where there are issues and really targeting those? I think the Sydney Water Authority is a great case study example of that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, Sydney Water and in New Zealand as well. We actually have a partner in New Zealand that's become our exclusive partner. It's our only partner in New Zealand. Obviously, different countries are going to have different guidelines that you have to follow. They've actually put it all through on their own. It's not something that Hydraloop's had to done, because they believe in the product, and they want to have it, and they've actually put everything through the regulations there. We actually worked with Sydney Water. Sydney Water had a regulation for greywater recycling in Australia that just wasn't viable. No one had ever done it. No one had ever tried to adhere to it. And Arthur and I are actually working with Sydney Water to help them rewrite their guideline for, and it's not going to be biased to Hydraloop. As I always say, it's about the mission. We just want to make it so it will actually work in homes there. So they're very open to what we can do to help them.
Great. A final question, because we're just about at the top of the hour, but
Yeah.
I saw on some of your videos Matt Damon as the co-founder of water.org. Can you just tell us a little bit about that and the endorsement that came from water.org?
Yeah, so what happened was, there's an organization called Blue Tech, and they deal, they're global. The gentleman, Paul Conahan, he's out of Ireland, and they actually had discussions with Arthur and Sabine, and he started this, the Great Blue World, and he actually approached Matt Damon, and then Matt Damon said, "Oh, Liam Neeson, who is the voiceover for it." So he actually sat with them and discussed it with them. So yeah, Matt Damon, I mean, we would love to get one of our devices in his home, which would be amazing. We're at the point now where, if a celebrity is going to endorse the product, then maybe that will assist. I mean, people will on board. We actually had Bobby Burke from the Netflix show Queer Eye for the Straight Guy. He sourced us out and said, "Hey, I want to put one in my home. We're going to give one to him to put in, and he's going to do a testimonial for us." So yeah, it's really taking off for sure.
It's fantastic. Well, we had one final question about working with Hydraloop, but I'd encourage you to, I think that was Philippe, reach out directly to melissa.lubitz@hydraloop.com and ask that question. And Melissa, where can we see you coming up in the future? We know you're going to be at the EBA conference in Salt Lake City, October 10th through 12th. So can't wait to get a chance to see the product in person. Where else can we see you, or is it best just to reach out to you?
Yeah, it's best to reach out. What we're doing is looking to see. We want to find the best places to. I mean, you can go to trade shows every single week for the rest of your life. So, I mean, ones like
I sometimes do that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
The ones like EBA and the CES and Aquatech. I think we're doing Aquatech Mexico this year, and all those, the AWWA and possibly WEFTech. The bigger ones, just to get the word out, to educate and just let people know that there is something that they can do.
Fantastic. Melissa, thank you so much for spending some time with us today and educating us about this incredible new product.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Melissa.
All right. Take care. Thank you, Aaron.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
bye.